Hey guys, Miss Warren here. I wanted to show you all some basic watercolor techniques. So what you'll need is a palette of watercolors. I'm using Prang, a set of 8 ovals. I am using I got a cup of clean water. I've got a paper towel and a watercolor brush. Now if you look, the yellow is pretty dirty because somebody didn't clean off their brush between uses. So I'm going to get a little bit of water on the end of my paper towel here, and I'm going to kind of wipe out that yellow, see if I can get it clean. This wastes a lot of paint when you have to clean it out like this. So this is why you want to make sure that your brush is super clean between colors. So like so much green and orange in there. Look at that. Wipe it out a little bit more, see if I can get all that green out so I have a pure, nice, clean yellow. It's taking me a minute. Rufio wants to know what I'm doing. Okay. So that should be much cleaner, much more usable. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is add a little bit of water, clean water on a clean brush to each color we anticipate on using. I probably say 7 to 8 drops in each color that we plan on using. This will kind of activate the colors. If I get them wet first, to give them a chance to kind of soak into the pigment. I'm not going to use black and brown today. I'm just going to use my bright colors. So there we go. We got about 7 or 8 drops in each color. Now the first section that I'm going to do at the top is a one color wash. A wash is a flat color, a flat plane of one color. So I'm going to start with red. I'm going to stir that water into the red. Make sure the water gets all nice and mixed with the pigment. But I still want what I'm picking up to be like 80% water. It's called watercolor for a reason. So I'm going to start on this section, and I'm going to start on one side, and I'm going to pull very cleanly right along the edge to the other. I'm going to go the same direction. Okay, you see here where it's getting lighter? That means I need to grab a little more paint. I'm going to spread it on there. Now I have a little bit too much paint, so I'm going to spread the paint that I have on the paper because I want to try as much as I can. I want to get one even color. Notice that I'm not scrubbing back and forth. I'm just doing one clean, solid sweep. If it's looking a little puddly, I kind of move that puddle around so it's a nice, even color. I don't want any stripes or streaks, so I'm going to go back and kind of smooth it out. The purpose of this is to do one solid area of color. Watercolor tends to dry like a shade lighter than what you put on the paper. Make sure that's nice and even there. Kind of blend. You don't want to scrub back and forth too much. So there's one kind of solid color. I'm going to touch up a few little areas here and there. Grab a little more water in my brush. Kind of smooth out a few areas. Okay, so that's one color wash. Now one color dark to light, I'm going to continue with red. Actually, I'll move to orange. Let me wipe off my brush with a paper towel really well. Then I'm going to rinse it in my water, kind of scrubby it along the bottom. I'm gonna put a few extra drops in this orange. Just wanna make sure my brush was super clean before I grab some orange. I'm gonna stir that water, get some of that pigment in that water. And I'm gonna go one color, dark to light. So I'm gonna get a lot of pigment, a lot of paint in my brush, kind of scrubbing the edge there. I wanna load up my brush with paint. Okay. So my first stroke, I want to have a lot of paint. Here, actually, I'm gonna scrub that a little bit more inside here, pick up more paint in my water. I'm gonna do one more layer. There we go. Nice, solid, dark orange color. I'm gonna kind of overlayer where I did before. You can already see it's starting to get darker, or it's starting to get lighter. I'm sorry. Put a lot of paint on there. I'm trying not to make this streaky. I'm trying to just get that color and spread it out. Now we have a good solid plane of orange. I'm gonna move my palette over here. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna start adding water. So I'm gonna grab a little bit of water in my painty brush. And it's gonna start to get lighter because I've added water. It's still orange, but it's a lighter shade of orange. Grab a little more water. Grab a little more water. I'm gonna grab some orange from the top here because that went a little bit too quickly. I want a kind of a smooth transition. I don't want it to look super streaky. Grab a little more water. You don't want it puddly, but you want it to get progressively lighter and lighter. I'm going to smooth out some of these streaks in here. So we went from light to dark. So if you wanted to do a gradient from light to dark. Now I'm going to do analogous colors. So analogous colors are colors that are side by side on the color wheel. So they're colors that are next to each other in the rainbow. So what I don't want to do, I'm going to clean off my brush really well. Well, here, I'm going to do a little dot of orange at the top. So what I don't want to do is don't want to get like orange. And let me clean off my brush really well because I'm going to dip it in the opposite color. So if you look at a color wheel, blue is on the opposite side of orange. What I don't want to do is mix opposites. So, because if I start to mix opposites, they turn messy, brown, muddy, gray colors. So that's what I don't want to do. What I want to do is colors that are right beside each other. So like I could go red to orange, orange to yellow, yellow to green, or green to blue, or blue to violet. So I'm going to do analogous colors, colors that are next to each other. So I'm going to start with yellow. Stir that yellow a little bit so I get lots of pigment in that water. And I'm going to go with a layer of yellow here. Let me get some more yellow because yellow is pretty light. So I want to get a lot of pigment on there. Now I'm going to clean out my brush really good, wipe it on that paper towel, rinse it out in my cup of water. Then I'm going to grab some green. Now green is much darker than yellow, so I only need a little bit. And I want kind of a yellow green on this paper. I'm going to overlap where I painted it before. Sorry guys, Rufio is trying to help me. I'm going to keep going with that green. Grab a little more. It's getting light over here. Okay. Now, blue is a much darker color. I'm going to do the last little part with blue. Let me clean out my brush really good in this paper towel. Rinse it out really good in my water because I don't want to contaminate my colors. And I'm going to grab some blue. Blue is much darker, so yellow is going to be your lightest color, and then blue and purple are going to be your darker ones. Now I'm going to go kind of overlap, get a blue-green in there, grab a little more blue. Get more blue near that for the edge. There we go. Kind of blend it out, fade it slowly. So there we go. We have an analogous gradient of colors. So I'm going to clean out my brush really well. Now this one you need salt for, just a tiny bit. First, let me get my page wet with a color. So I'm going to put down a color, pretty dark violet color. I'm going to get a little water because that violet is dark, dark, dark. If you don't want just a flat wash, you can kind of dab it. Here, I'm going to grab some blue and kind of mix two colors together before I put salt down. I'm going to rinse out my brush. Grab a little blue. What's best is to mix analogous colors next to each other. So if the water, it's not dry and you put it next to it, their colors are going to start to mix with each other. So I'm going to just kind of dab around on there. Grab some more water. Because I want this to still be wet when I put the salt on there, so y'all can see the effect that the salt has. I'm gonna dab, so you can tell the difference of how I use my brush. If I dab it, you get more of that texture than if I try to do a flat wash. I'm gonna wipe off my brush real quick, lay it flat over to the side. It doesn't need to sit in the water. And I'm gonna get just a little bit of salt. That's all you need. You don't need any more than that, just a sprinkle. And where the salt lands, it starts to soak up the water and create little specks of texture. But it has to still be wet. If you look here, it's a little too dry to create the little specky texture. And when it dries, I can brush it off. Okay, I'm gonna stop the video for there and I'll come back for the other two techniques.